In this video, I'm going to share with you my own personal exercises and expertise for muscular gains, specifically for my quads.
Alright, I'm Changed and here at my local LA Fitness. I'm Jay, Simplify Fitness and HerniaSurgeryRecovery.com, and I'm an independent personal trainer and former fitness competitor and have had 2 hernias, both surgically fixed. My exercise selection and execution will be ensuring my muscles will have a good ratio of stimulus to recovery, as that is critical for muscular growth, all while reducing any chance of a recurring hernia. Now I'm starting with a Smith rack squat, which is a compound movement, and I'm using this machine to just focus on the up and down motion without having to worry about stability. I'm using these squat wedges, which I'll link in the description below, as they shift greater stimulus to my quads and reduce pressure on my low back. I do start with a few reps and increasing loads to ensure I have a good position where I feel stimulus in my quads and the motion feels natural and easy on my joints, like my low back, knees, and ankles. I like to have the wedges turned out slightly, and my main focus is getting as much flexion or bend in my knees. I'm focused on maintaining as much tension in my quads the entire time, so on the way up and on the way down. For hypertrophy, this is the focus, the target muscle under tension, until we only have about 1 to 3 reps in the tank left with good form. I do use a weight belt, just a nylon one, nothing heavy duty like the leather ones. I use it as a tool to remind myself to brace through my core. This particularly helps on the latter reps when I'm more fatigued. I'll also leave the link in the description of this belt I'm using. So I'm aiming for a total volume of about 20 to 24 working sets for my quads per week. I will spread that across 3 days, so I'll be doing about 8 working sets per day. This will differ based on your experience level. So for example, a beginner should start with about 8 to 12 working sets and can spread those sets out over 2 days. It's important to gradually progress and add more sets, as your body will need additional volume to grow. The next exercise of the day is an elevated lunge. With the elevation of the front foot, I can get a large range of motion in the front leg easier. I like doing the lunge after the squat, as there is less load on my spine, therefore less spinal compression, while still stimulating the quads. It's better to go heavier earlier on in the workout where there is less systemic fatigue buildup. I perform about 3 working sets of these to about 2 to 3 reps in reserve. Lastly, for my quads today, I'll perform leg extensions. Again, my focus is on full range of motion. Now, looking at my form, I should be keeping this a little slower on the eccentric on the way down. I do notice as more systemic and muscular fatigue kicks in, we can get less focused with our form. And that's probably why I'm not doing them as good as I should be. In my opinion, this is also something to help strengthen you mentally. I'm using these yoga blocks on a hack squat. These help me get greater range of motion in my knees. As you can see, this is definitely the theme, greater range of motion. With these blocks on my shoulders, I can get my calves closer to touching my hamstrings. All the same principles apply. Keep tension on my quads throughout and slow on the way down, the eccentric. I'm doing about 4 to 5 working sets on these. Next up, Bulgarian split squats. Probably the most hated but loved quad exercise, as the isolation can feel pretty brutal. Notice I have my front leg up on a couple of weight plates. This allows me to get more depth, and I perform about 3 working sets of these. The last exercise for this day is a single leg press. It's an exercise I've actually never done, and I just recently introduced it into my routine. I traditionally use both legs, but I thought I'd try adding this to see how it felt. Now, I finished my week being out of town and had to use this hotel gym for my last impromptu quad exercises. It's definitely more challenging with less equipment and does take some creativity. So I'm using this Bosu ball just to elevate my heels for a more quad focus. And because the weight available to me is less, I end up having to do more reps until getting close to muscular fatigue. I performed 4 working sets of these. Next, I had to be creative and use this cable crossover. I set the bar attachment on both sides and the weight is set pretty heavy to prevent the cables from moving. I'm just using the bar as a foot sling for these Bulgarian split squats. If you've done these before, you might find that your back foot on the bench can get the arch of your foot to cramp up. But with my foot on top of this bar, it doesn't excessively flex my arch and then my foot won't cramp. I did about 3 working sets on each leg. So there was my breakdown for my working sets for my quads. Remember, keep tension on your quads going through a full range of motion. Do an appropriate amount of working sets for your quads per week based on your experience level and progress as needed. That's it on this. I'm Jace, and I will see you in the next one.